Breaking news from CNN this week. Women are officially past their prime in their 50s and maybe even at the end of their 30s. That might be when a woman's prime ends. It's not entirely clear when our prime ends. Maybe you should try Googling it because I'm about to play you a clip from the CNN breakfast show. It happened a few days ago when co-host Don Lemon was talking about Republican Nikki Haley. She's a woman who's just announced that at the age of 55, she's the woman who has just announced that at the age of 51, she plans to run for president. And her pitch, part of her pitch when she announced it, is that Americans should put their faith in a new generation of leaders because current President Joe Biden is 80 and past and possibly future President Donald Trump is 76. And she called for mental competency tests for any politician over the age of 75. To which Don Lemon, who is 56 himself, launched into an unbelievable rant about how Nikki Haley herself, at age 51, is past her prime. And the incredulous women's voices that you're about to hear are his co-hosts, Poppy Harlow and Caitlin Collins, who are both in their late 40s, I think. And I can't believe we're now listing everyone's age, but here we are. Have a listen to this.
Politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What do you talk? Wait.
That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
It depends. I mean, it's just like prime. If you look it up, it'll say, if you Google when is a woman in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Look it up.
I did, and I found that.
Look it up. Oh, wait, I've just got to fill you in because after that very awkward moment, he was publicly rebuked by the boss of CNN and shunned by all his female colleagues. And he apologised in a tweet. He said, the reference I made to a woman's prime this morning was inartful and irrelevant, as colleagues and loved ones have pointed out, and I regret it, he said. A woman's age doesn't define her either personally or professionally. He added, I have countless women in my life who prove that every day. Some of my best friends are women who are out of their prime. What a great guy. Jessie, you're in your prime at age 32 because you're pregnant, whereas Holly and I are dried up old crones ready for the abattoir. Agree?
I found the study he was talking about and I just need to interrogate it for a moment.
Please.
Okay? Because I was going, all right, let's just Google and give this guy the benefit of the doubt.
Always.
Because I don't think he is talking about reproductive age and I don't think he's talking about beauty, right? So there was a 2020 study. It was a European study that found that we tend to hit our cognitive maximum around age 35 and remain there until age 45, blah, 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 20s, 30s, 40s. There are a few details in the study that our good friend Don didn't read. He just read the headline, which tends to happen. This was based on some research done on chess players. They just watched chess players and they get really good at 35. And then they don't seem to get much better from there. It's not even that they decline. They just don't continue to go up. They plateau. Do we think that chess is the be-all and end-all when it comes to intelligence and wisdom and competency? I would say no. I would say chess is a very specific example, maybe about learning. Like, for example, they say that like rote learning as in trying to recite information and then spit it back out actually peaks at 20. But that doesn't mean that you're smartest at 20. I don't think we have a workable definition of what intelligence or cognitive function actually means or what the height of it is.
So, Jessie, words. So many words from a 32-year-old pregnant woman. But we all know that what he was implying is that that being 80 or 75 is the same as being 51.
That's okay. So the fact he used woman and women hit their prime was a problem.
Yeah.
But the other point he's making that I would like to just put on the table is he's saying, why is it okay to be ageist, to question the cognitive function of a 75 and 80-year-old and say they should do a competency test, but it's not okay to say it to a 50-year-old?
Because there's a huge difference. We know that cognitive function declines as you get older.
So is there a difference between 30 and 50?
I don't know. Holly, back me up.
I love how Jessie, because she's a contrarian by nature, which is one of the many things I love about her, is bending over backwards to find a reason to defend this dude who has basically just thrown a whole load of women in the bin. Now, I'm sure there are studies that tell us exactly about the cognitive abilities of women at all ages and men at all ages, but he was not referencing them. He was not talking about that. He was talking about vibes, as Mia is basically putting out there. He's talking about vibes, and he's like, and also she's a conservative woman, and so he doesn't like her, and that's what, whatever your politics might be. So he's going, she can't be bandying that around because bloody hell, she's dried up too at 51. And I think it's indefensible, because what does prime mean? So Jesse's trying to make it mean about your brain function, your literal brain function. That's clearly not what it means in this particular instance. Mia, you're suggesting it's about reproduction. We could argue it's about beauty, but really it means when you're most desirable to the world for all kinds of things. When are you exciting and promising and energetic? And he's basically saying women over 40, not so much.
To be clear, the studies are wrong, and the definition...
In the studies that you just quoted are wrong.
Yeah, that was my point.
Well, why did you quote the study then?
Because I think that's what he read. I think that when he was going, Google it, I did Google it, and that's what came up.
Yeah, but I more thought that he was like, Google it, it'll say that women are in their prime in their 20s and 30s. He didn't qualify and say it's everybody cognitively. I think what's interesting about this is whose idea of prime is it? Because if you ask a woman, when are you in your prime? I'm having these conversations all the time with women who are in their 40s and 50s and even 60s, where they're saying, I'm finally free of that, if they had kids, of that hectic little kids era. My kids are older, or I'm older. I know who I am. I would say all my friends in their 50s are in their prime.
Well, I think that, and this was my point, that
depends how you define it.
According to his own logic, he's wrong. And according to the study itself is wrong. And so because there is no workable definition of intelligence or cognitive function or anything like that, I suppose you could argue that when you're 95, if you actually did brain scans, there are real differences. But what none of this accounts for is something like wisdom, which is a type of intelligence that is almost impossible to measure. And the irony is that if you look at the average age of US presidents throughout history, the age is about 55. If you look at the average age of world leaders all over the world right now, it's between 50 and 55, which puts her, by any metric of leadership, in a literal prime. But then when a woman wants to do it, then it becomes him going, oh, no, you're too old, which is incredibly ironic. And then you've got Sanna Marin in the corner over here, who's in her 30s, being told she's too young.
I'm going to defend him for a second and circle round and say what you said, Hol, which is he's right in terms of what society says. I mean, I can say till the cows come home, I'm in my prime at 51, but that's not what society tells me about being 51 or 55
don't you think
or 45.
That depends? But don't you think that depends what prime we're talking about? Because the thing that is unspoken here but very clear is you're considered to be in your sexual prime as a woman in terms of your desirability at a certain age, but your career prime at a different age. So I feel like those things bump into each other. The thing that's tricky here is, and Jessie brought this up and she's right, is that wanting to be age blind, right? If we want to be age blind, it is actually very difficult with all the best will in the world to look at Joe Biden and think that he is in his prime.
Yep.
Right? Certainly when you're thinking about another 4 years. And if we are now looking at a boomer generation, and the thing is there's somebody who's grappling with aging and also aging parents, and we're all grappling with aging in different ways. 25-year-olds are grappling with ages in a different way than 50-year-olds and so on. It's incredibly confronting to think that there's a lot behind you, that there are things you'll never do again, that there are things you'll never be as good at again. It's incredibly confronting and nobody wants to hear it. It's like the joke I made last week about people telling me I'm too old to be up a ladder because I'm 50. But Joe Biden is probably objectively too old to go again. And he doesn't want to hear it. And people in their 70s don't want to hear it. But it's probably true, right? So all of this you're never going to please everybody about when people's primes are because we've all got such subjective views depending on where we're sitting in that spectrum at a particular moment.
And that's what I guess is complicated about ageism, because people said that about Ruth Bader Ginsburg for the last decades of her life, and she was doing incredibly important work. But ageism is a funny, a very, very real form of discrimination that we begin to excuse at a certain point when we go, well, in fairness, nah, he probably is too old. So I don't know. I don't think he was intending to make that point, but I think that it riles people up when there's a level of cruelty or criticism thrown at Joe Biden for being too old.
I just think you can't. I think it's like Holly said, you can't compare 80 to 51. We want to hear from Out Louders. When do you think a woman's prime is, and do you think it's different to a man's prime? Have you hit your prime? Are you past your prime? Are you looking ahead to your prime?